Good morning.
Good
My
morning.
name is Jennifer Baker. I am the Deputy Archivist with Warren County Record Center and Archives. Today is August 21st, 2019. We are here interviewing about the Fred family history. We are currently at the Engineers Department located at 210 West Main Street. I'm going to give everyone that is present a chance to introduce themselves. So we are going to go around the table.
I'm Brandon Cott. I'm an intern at the Warren County Archives.
I'm Bobby Atking. I'm the administrative assistant here at the Warren County Engineers Office.
Jeff Pendleton, Assistant Bridge Design, Warren County Engineers Office.
I'm Dorothy Hack, wife of Robert Hack.
I'm Robert Hack. My grandparents were Amelia and Saul Fred, who had this house way before, after Corwin, Governor Corwin had it.
Okay.
They had over 100 years.
So very quickly, a little bit of background about the building we were in. It was owned by Thomas Corwin in the 1800s, and then his family continued to own it until Solomon and Amelia Fred purchased it.
Correct.
And then the house was in the Fred family up through the late 1900s.
Yes.
And at some point, it had been turned into apartments where the Fred family resided. Is that?
There's one apartment above. The rest were with the family lived here. Mark, Bud,
Ed,
Ed, and
Noni.
Noni, and Rachel and Aaron Brockman. Rachel married an Aaron Brockman.
Okay.
It was in the family for
It's a family.
about 100 years.
Okay. So I'm going to ask some background questions specific to you, and then we're going to go into some specific questions about your family and about the house. So when and where were you born?
Detroit, Michigan,
And what year was that?
1940.
Okay. And then where did you grow up?
In Detroit.
Okay. And then who were your parents and siblings?
Leonard is my father. Dorothy Fred Hack is my mother. She's born in 1913. And my sibling is Lawrence Stewart Hack, born 2 years before me, my older brother.
1938.
1938. He's born 1938. August 17th.
And it was Leonard Hack.
Okay. And then where are some other, have you always lived in Detroit, or where are
Yes.
some other places that you've
I live
resided?
basically in Detroit.
Okay.
Well, we live now in West Bloomfield, Michigan,
Okay.
A suburb of
suburb, northwest suburb.
Okay. And then what are some professions you've had?
My family used to have an orthopedic shoe business. My father's father, called Nathan Hack, started a shoe business in downtown Detroit in 1916. And called Hasties and Fredericks, downtown Detroit. He invented the very first walker in World War II. He invented the very first convalescent boot in World War II. And he also invented a shoe called the Ripple Sole, R-I-P-P-L-E, Ripple Sole. He came over here in the United States in 1900.
Okay. What are some professions you've had? Did you spend...
I was in shoe business for a while. I did a lot of orthopedic work. I later went into the
foam.
Dorothy, she asked me. I was in the commercial phone business, the multi-phone systems. After Hack Shoes, retail, I said, forget it. I had my own mailer marketing firm during the Sharper Image time. And later on, I decided to go back to school and became a clinical psychologist. And since a little kid, I've been taking photographs. I'm now a professional photographer. When I was 5 years old, I had pictures of myself in Yellowstone National Park with my Brownie camera taking pictures of deer. And I went on and on. I did our high school pictures, and I do a lot of work with community theater. I've been in community theater locally and a couple of movies.
Okay. Sounds great. Did you want to give us a little bit of background information on yourself?
Okay. I was born in 1937. And
Where were you born?
in Detroit, Michigan. And my name was Dorothy Charlotte Robinson, and now Hack. My father also was in a service business as well as a retail business with leather goods and luggage, and my mom worked with him. And I went to school, well, actually, I graduated high school, and then I lived and went out for about 4 years, and then I went back to college and became a teacher for 36 years.
You were with the, in Chicago with the,
Electronics
Electronics
Representatives
Yeah.
Association. It was wonderful, to be in Chicago. You think that it's so much different than where you live, but I have to tell you something. At home you say, what are we going to do tonight? In Chicago you say, what are you going to do tonight? So every place, the grass is never greener on the other side, but it was a lot of fun and it was very good.
What did you teach?
I taught,
6th grade and me.
I actually, taught elementary, but I ended up in middle school. I actually was 6th grade first, tall girl, heels, and scared of 6th grade kids when I first started. But I loved them, and they're just the most wonderful people. I am very fortunate to have taught there for most of my years, and I see them all the time, and they love to see me. So they are, let me tell you, I loved it very much. I didn't get married right away. I was 36 when I met my husband.
So what year were you married?
1974.
Okay.
This year is 45 years of marriage.
Congratulations.
And I met him bike riding at an apartment complex. It was meant to be. Let me tell you, it actually was. I meant to be because I bought a bike because I thought I needed exercise and wasn't feeling well, and turned out that right away I met
I got
him.
the circulation off.
So and it's been a wonderful,
She was at
wonderful
the
time.
same wedding my parents were at that same day.
Huh.
We know each other at the time.
We did not know each other. We lived across the street from each other. So, and I had the most wonderful experience of coming down with him to Lebanon, Ohio. And it was nothing like it is now, basically. I mean, it was a different kind of a city, just like all cities can be through the years. Like Detroit has changed. And I'm overwhelmed with how beautiful it is. The home we're sitting in now was not anything I'd ever seen before. It was absolutely gorgeous. And so I am very grateful to be here with you.
We came down here at that time with my 2 kids, Tony and Beverly.
Okay, so you have 2 children?
I have 2 children.
Okay.
I had 2 children. This is my 2nd marriage.
Okay.
His daughter passed away from a drunk driver, which is
1985.
long ago, in '85. And we came here often many times with Dorothy and Leonard.
Okay.
And
My mother,
experienced meeting, I didn't meet everybody, but
Leah,
I did
Rachel,
meet,
Aaron.
no, I met Aaron
You met Aaron?
and Rachel. She saw Leah in the later years. She was in San Francisco, retiring from a wonderful
Assisted living
career.
out of an opera star.
Okay.
She's singing in London, England.
And that's Leah?
Leah, yeah.
Okay. Was her last name
Fred.
Fred?
Never
Okay.
married.
Never married. Okay. So, can you share some memories of your family and their businesses in Warren County? I know you didn't grow up here with them, but do you have any memories?
Fred Department Store, Golden Lamb. Fred's Department Store, my brother and I loved playing there. They had clothing, dry goods, furniture. They had a food court. I remember a big freight elevator where they had a food court above there. It was a nice little town, and we came here, and when we lived in Michigan, we'd come back and shop in the store for clothing. I remember the Golden Lamb Hotel, and I was here quite often. I love Michael Skeet, Corwin Fred. He had a farm out, what's it, Oregonio? What's it? Oregonio Road. He built a 13-acre lake, had his own Beechcraft Bonanza plane that I flew with him a lot on his grassy strips. His daughter Sheila was married on the lake,
On an island.
on an island. He built an island in the lake.
Did he have sand as well? Is that correct?
He had sand beach there. And
Yeah, okay.
He had Fred's mushrooms, and he had a big mushroom farm. I remember him showing us a big pile of horse manure and picking up that smell it.
That's how they grow the
For
Yeah.
the mushrooms?
They started down the basement here. There was a little area in the cellar I showed Bobby, and where it was originally grown. And I understand my grandmother said, "Get out of here. That's how they skeet. Skidoo.
Okay.
And let's see, Fred's Department Store and Coastal Golden Lamb and
Did they own
Turn
the
of the
Golden
Century Center.
Lamb?
pardon?
Did the Fred family own, or do you just have memories of going to the Golden Lamb as a child?
I remember going there.
Yeah, there was also a turn of the century soda shop when we were here.
Yeah.
And they filmed 2 movies here.
Is that the Village Ice Cream
Yes,
shop? Okay.
they filmed it with Barbara Eden and we weren't here then.
Oh, they had, Harper Valley PTA was filmed here. Did you know that? They had pictures of it. They said she was terrific. They did Milk Money with Melanie Griffith.
Yeah.
Did
By
not
the
like
railroad.
her. I guess she wasn't as kind a person.
So I just remember going to those places, except for Skeet to me is my childhood hero. If everybody knows Will Rogers, I have an old picture of him on his plane. He looked exactly like him. He was very adventurous like him. He was my hero. I looked up to him. Plane, he taught me how to scuba dive, fishing.
I heard he was quite the character.
Oh yes, quite. Yeah.
Sounds like a dreamer.
Yeah.
He was married twice. And I think the second time was not great, but the first, to Nancy.
Okay. And then, can you share some memories from visiting the Fred, I'm calling it the Fred family home. It's the building that we were in, which is now the engineer's office for Warren County. Can you share some memories about visiting this particular building?
I remember going up the back, I don't know what you call it, the back stairway here, going up to Rachel and Aaron's apartment above. I slept in their son's Freddie room for a while. And we enjoyed that, and my brother and I, my brother Larry. And over here where Abraham Evans, Fred, Bud, we call him Bud. He had an apartment over here, and this thing's 14 feet tall. I remember the staircase over here that goes up on the side. My brother wanted to scare the heck out of me. Every time I heard a creak, ghost, ghost.
That's older brothers for you.
So you guys stayed in this building
We-
as
we-
children when your family?
As children in the summertime,
Okay.
Every summer?
a lot of summers.
My
Yeah, I
mother-in-law
remember
wouldn't leave this. This was
Going
in
down
our-
by Turtle Creek, and my cousin Jimmy said, "Chickers, don't worry about that."
Okay, so as a child you visited, do you have
Many
any
times.
memories as an adult coming here?
Later in life, with my wife and my kids. See, my parents like
You know, we came several times with Leonard and Dorothy Hack.
My parents.
Dorothy Fred Hack. And we would come, it was always the same routine. You'd go 75, you'd stop at Findlay. They had it's gone too. They had like a diner, a really nice, and then now they have all the ready-to-made food type places. And then we would come right on to here, come up the road, the same road we came up. It was very exciting every time we came up. When you don't, for me, who didn't even live here, and the way the people were, and the community, and going to the the turn of the century soda shop. I mean, it's the regular.
They'll be stopped today, hopefully.
What is it? Oh, we're stopping there today.
Yeah, going south past Bowling Green, my dad got a speeding ticket. He never just spoke. Forgot about it.
Okay. And then, so
She
go
loved,
ahead.
I just want to say that Dorothy absolutely loved this place, and so I know that every year she would have to be here with her family, and likely for a nice amount of time. And I also know that from the Fred store, she would have everything sent to her. Big items like refrigerators and her Steinway pianos. She was a marvelous to her in
Michigan.
Detroit.
Or, okay.
I have my grandmother's Steinway piano in my house. I have
She sent one to
a mantle clock for my grandmother. My uncle Ed had a Buick dealership, so for years we had Buicks. I don't know where it was located.
Yeah, I did.
I never
hear
was
that.
there.
There was also a piano upstairs, correct?
It might have been. I
In
don't know.
Rachel's.
In
Rachel-
Rachel's apartment?
In Rachel's apartment, yeah.
Yeah.
She had a lot of
That was
Oriental carpets. She had a lot of collections.
Oh, they had.
They travel all the world. They were in Egypt. Somewhere I have an old picture of her on a camel.
I have they had Havilon, she had Havilon, the anniversary pattern,
We have
the 50th anniversary pattern, which is, unfortunately, people nowadays, younger people don't really want China, but in those days, and in our day too, when we were getting married, and also,
We have a whole set of that.
Oh, yeah, we had, I mean, every piece that you could imagine that you could have, a butter pig. I mean, she also, she had given my mother-in-law many, many things. They were extremely
Which-
close. My mother-in-law, Dorothy, called her Mama Ray. She was 20 years
20 years
older.
difference, yes.
Her parents by then were certainly older after having that many children. But this was, and I also know that she would always point out to me through the windows that we looked, she would say to me, we had all this property out here. But you know, things change. People
She had
get
chickens,
older.
and I think they might have cows, I don't recall.
Yeah, I want to say the original property when it was purchased by the Corwin family was at least 5 acres in this, surrounding the house.
And
so.
I know that my father-in-law purchased it all. And what did they do with the house? You said that they increased it.
Solomon Fred, when he purchased the house, it was about 9,000 square feet, and he had made it 12,000 square feet. I was told he put the first plumbing and first electrical in town. He's
That
quite
sounds
handy.
like
He's
a-
quite handy man. I understand.
Sounds like
I
a
never met him.
large project
Yeah.
for this large of a house.
Yeah.
So
For a man that started out going from farm to farm and building up, more equity and eventually building up and having a tremendously large, beautiful department store at the time, I would say that he was very prominent. And I also, should I say one more thing?
go ahead.
I know that what excited me, being a teacher for sure, that, and with the knowledge that this community was intact its own self, not as it is now on the suburb of Dayton and Cincinnati, that people did not travel more than 20 miles, in circumference, to go any place. People, just communities didn't do that. And when I heard, and I sat in the Golden Lamb and was told that he would sit and visit with the people, that he was, with all the different people here, and they would have their own mugs, like they talk about in the history books, and their own pipes, and this is the real living, to really see history alive. Now we went back, and everything has gotten more modernized.
He purchased Lebanon University, which is Lebanon Apartments, and a whole series of books. I have a few of them back. I have one book, Slave Trade, Ancient and Modern, print 1860. I have a little bound book. He had
So Solomon Fred purchased
the library,
the Lebanon University.
yeah.
Okay.
It has the
So we
grammar-
call that the National Normal University.
Yeah, I have a book on it.
Okay.
My grandfather, I understand, originated in Cincinnati when I first came to Ohio.
And my mother-in-law said that he provided books to the high school, of their library, and also to the university. And I think he was quite a philanthropic person.
Yeah, it sounds like it, and everything that we've heard sounds like it. So.
And I think he loved this town, and I know she did. And I really think that having a home that likely was held by the governor when it was the seat of the government, and of course it isn't now, that I think that having the home for a certain amount of time and then family having it for 100 years should be acknowledged, and really is something, and taking care of it.
Well, I think part of the problem is that we're still collecting the history of that portion of the household, so that's something that's still being put together.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I noticed it, like Lenauer, it tells how the history of people who lived in this house and this
Mhm.
house. So I don't think that, I think it's wonderful that this is
Yeah.
known as the Corwin House. I think it's so exciting and wonderful that Solomon Fred purchased the home and revered it
well,
and kept
do you
it
know
up.
how long that, because he lived here with his wife, is that correct?
Yes.
How long did they keep it just the private residence between the two of them? Do you know?
It was a private restaurant. Upstairs, they rent out one apartment that I think it helped pay for some of the.
No, what she's asking is,
Right.
before they divided it into
Mhm.
four,
Oh,
when he was, when did he die approximately? Any idea of
I have it back in the
I
car.
think it was in the 19 teens, if I'm not mistaken.
when did he die?
It was at the 19 teens
I can tell you I have
Right.
the information in the car.
when
Okay.
Solomon passed
Yeah.
away.
And did Amelia
I would have to verify
I have-
that
I have it in the
information.
car.
Yeah.
And I think that the family and as the family got older and they had their spouses, is
Mhm.
when they, would
Circle
realize
back.
that they should, again revered the house, and they kept it fairly intact, other than, taking out what they had to make 4 apartments. And they all lived here, and I do know from being here, I didn't get married until I was 1974, and we didn't probably come for a couple of years, but then when we did come, several times, they always felt, that this home was their home, but But I also think that when they had the department store, and then I understood that there are now malls, and any place you go, malls, you know, bite into businesses, and then, unfortunately, I don't think they had the families that were left. And it was very sparse families that were left, that they didn't have a whole lot, and this is why eventually, only Suzanne was left, her father was gone, and so they sold the home. And I know Bob was not, you know, he felt bad about it, but.
I said the way the house used to look like, we have a area in Michigan called Henry Ford Museum. They have old homes, colonial homes. This home looked as good as that, if not better, if it was ever kept in that good condition. If they moved it down there, it would have been better looking than we have there.
Oh, as opposed to what?
As opposed to what's down there.
And my mother-in-law was very proud of that pond. I have to tell you, every time we came, we would go over and we would see how the pond was, and she just, and the other thing is she would leave this city and she would take the train, and it's a cute, very nice train station, and she would go to Cincinnati. She would study her piano and her singing there.
My mother.
She was very, very talented. Her name was Dorothy Hack.
Yeah, it sounds like the
Dorothy
women of
Hack.
the family, definitely.
A very artistic family. Leah, my mom Dorothy, Rachel was quite an artist. I have some paintings back at home, which she, outside the, what was that, on Main Street, or which one it was.
Looking across Main
So
Street.
Looking
Main
across.
Street.
I have some old paintings of that area.
It was their property.
And this, she had a lot of exhibits. She had a lot of exhibits. She had a lot of ribbons from her paintings. Very critical of her own work. She threw half of it away.
I think that.
She has. I think I showed
That's
you earlier.
always
We have
pretty.
a leather screen of a hunting scene painted. She's ready to throw that away. I said, "Ray, I'm taking it with me." She gave away the family Bible. I understand. There's a door knocker out here.
But to whom did she give that?
Do you
I
know?
hers is University Cincinnati Museum.
Okay. I know the
Probably would.
Historical Society ends up inheriting a lot of
Yeah.
things, so I don't know.
A
if
mantle
they
place
have-
from here, I think,
yeah.
is there.
Okay. You mentioned some secret staircases within the house when Thomas Corwin owned the property.
Yes.
Do you know?
To his house, to his bedroom, was supposedly a secret staircase going up there. I
Okay.
never saw it. It was already blocked over when I was here.
Do you know?
It was by the fireplace there.
Was it in this front corner? Do you know?
I forgot the directions here.
Right. So
Yeah.
the front door is in the middle
Okay.
here.
So it
Do you
was
know on which
wherever
side?
wherever his bedroom was. It's the side of the fireplace.
Okay.
I was told.
So.
Well,
was-
it wouldn't have been in the front was a parlor.
Yeah.
I understood.
This front over here is a parlor.
That was a parlor.
There's a parlor
On this
on
side,
that side,
Yeah.
on,
the library is on
Library.
this side.
no,
Yeah.
this side.
The library.
Okay, there was a
What
lib-
the Corwins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so those were not bedrooms, I mean,
Right.
so it would
Well,
have
his
Second floor,
bedroom was
second floor.
up.
upstairs, huh?
Yeah. So upstairs
Who
and
drew
kind of in the
that?
back.
I did.
Yeah.
Rachel gave me, I went over this house with her when I was 15. Said, where was everything? And in the 50s, she redid her apartment and found old newspapers up in the attic, Lincoln assassinated, given away.
Oh, gosh.
She wouldn't give away everything.
And then
So in the fifties, she redid her apartment upstairs,
Okay.
so it was before the 50s.
Modernized, it was all
Modernized then.
metal cabinets. It was
Yeah.
modern then.
And then you mentioned hearing stories about this house being part of the Underground Railroad.
Yes, I understand, my understanding was, in a lot of the closets, these ceilings are awfully about like 14 feet tall, and they hollow out the closet so they can hide the slaves in the
Make a false
like a false ceiling in the closet, and
lower.
I guess at nighttime they would then go out and go north.
Okay.
That's my understanding from the story, the stories I heard.
Okay. Who told you those stories? Do you remember? Okay. And then, so those are all the specific
Well, the phone
questions.
was-
Does anybody else have any questions that you would like to ask?
How about I love that, about that walnut.
The
Oh,
wall-
the
black
tree?
walnut.
Well, and this is where I was going to
Yeah.
say, if there's any other information that you would like us to record
Yeah.
for this
They used to have a
interview.
beautiful walnut tree that was torn down when the mental health people took it over, and there was a beautiful stone bench over here too. I have pictures of that,
And that walnut tree, I was told
huge.
by the family that they were going to give them thousands of dollars. People wanted to come and dig it up. It was so very old and very beautiful and very healthy. So I just can't believe anybody would not have, understand. I mean.
And right by was the car barn. It was all gravel road. They had a car barn. Barn. It was a barn for the cars, and they used to cook out there. And on a lower level, there was another area.
So there was a level underneath the
You go around the corner there.
So the
It's wood,
carport or
cardboard. It was wood floor,
okay,
really tall.
and that's where their outdoor kitchen was.
I understand they had outdoor kitchen.
It was like it became a
Right.
5-car garage. It was very long. It
Wide.
wasn't a small building. It was long.
I think they had the
rectangle.
same size about.
Mm-hmm.
What's that? That be it,
Left side,
bottom left.
bottom left.
There. It
Yeah.
was really, they made it into just for
Big planked wood floors like this.
Okay.
and the property, I'll tell the anecdote about Bob's son was young. He was probably about 8 years old. And we were sitting on one of the porches in the back.
This porch.
And it was a very beautiful, this home was probably stucco in those days too. It was
Yeah,
a-
the
so
second one I
different.
know.
But what happened is we were talking and Tony was playing and he was kind of going away, and all of a sudden we realized he wasn't around. Beverly was there, his daughter, but not Tony. And so we went out looking for him, and we found him sobbing. He couldn't find his way back.
So large.
Because the way the property was for a young kid, I mean.
I have an autographed picture of my mom's autograph book from high school with her letters in the car, and she was in an oral Turo.
You found the autograph book?
No, my mom's, not Amelia's.
Oh, Amelia's. I'm gonna try. Oh, unfortunately, don't ask how, but it started being mice. And the thing is, we didn't have mice, but I don't know where it was. But it shows, you know how you went to the dances. You had these little books, and people would sign. The boys would sign them, and you'd have a dance with those boys. It has a lot. That might be something for them to see.
I see
Possibly,
some.
even as
I
it
think I have
doesn't
some
look good.
love letters to my mom, from my dad to my mom. My dad was an extremely romantic man. I said Rudolph Valentino was as romantic as he was. Every year he was married, he had another rose in his bunch. When he had 2 kids, another 2 roses, different color. When he had a dog, a 3rd color rose. My dad was the most romantic man in the whole world.
They were like sweethearts to the day.
How did they end up in Detroit?
My dad lived in Detroit.
Okay.
That's where his father had a
Okay,
shoe
so
business.
and then when your dad and your mom met, she
Yeah.
moved there with
Well,
him.
She met him at the University of Michigan football game.
Okay.
Sorry, Buckeyes.
Uh-oh.
Buckeye.
Nathan and Leonard.
together
Nathan, Fred, and
at the University of
Leonard
Michigan.
were roommates.
Okay.
And then Dorothy came up to see a game, and she was very close to Nate too. So, and they met. And
Nate was her.
that was it.
Nate and Skeet she loved a lot.
Okay.
Well, she was the closest to. She was the youngest with them because they were all the youngest ones
Yeah.
sitting together here.
And where did Dorothy fall in line of the Fred children?
She's the last
Of
of 9
9.
kids.
The babies.
That's why her older sister Rachel was 20 years old. She called her Mama Ray.
Right. Which, so just for anyone watching, we plan on digitizing any of the information he's sharing with us, so you can reach out to us and request that in the future. So we will have those records at the Record
I actually
Center.
have a family tree, complete family tree, going way back. Name was Fred, later Fried or Friedman, and Sigmund Freud's a distant relative of mine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. For a terrific
On this
voice
side,
number.
on the Fred side.
Fred side, yeah.
Okay.
You know how they took names and then they would change them and all that.
Right.
We don't have any. But somebody had reached out to Bob and was from that it's related some way somehow.
Some lady lives in New York. Gave me the Fred tree.
Oh, that's cool. That's always helpful when people have done a little bit of their own history. Okay, so for us, those are all the questions we have. Like I said, if there's any other additional information you would like to add,
I can show you the autograph book for my mom if you want to see that later on. Now,
yeah, we will take images and stuff
Okay,
of
yeah.
all of this information that you're sharing with
Okay.
us. And then, like I said, the Warren County Record Center and Archives will have those records.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to submit a public records request, we can provide copies of them.
We have some information from our high school, prom,
Okay.
a lot of old newspapers.
Okay.
I just, myself coming into this family was overwhelmed when I could see the community. Wherever we went, we walked with Mark. In fact, they have a brick right at the Golden Lamb for him. That he didn't put it in, but
Mhm.
the people did. And every place we went, everybody knew Mark, and they would wave to Mark. It was, to me, at that time, it was more like old time community when I first came here back, through the years. And
Yeah.
and when my mother and I were coming up from Florida another time without the family, we came in and Mark, wanted to see her, and we were on our way. I was bringing her back into the Detroit area where we lived. Oh my God! I mean, it was like my mother was so overwhelmed. So this community really, obviously,
to her.
had not to that, but
Yeah.
I think that the Fred family meant a lot to
Yeah.
the
Oh yeah,
community.
I mean, everyone we've spoken to has some kind of story about the Fred family, or if they didn't know the Fred family directly, has some kind of memory of their
The
store.
place we're staying
or,
at, Hardy's, he said he worked for Fred's Furniture.
Mhm.
I think his name's Al Hardy. I have my Uncle Mark's violin. He used to play the violin years ago. I never knew he did it.
I will say something that I
They're all talented.
didn't think of saying, but when I came here, I was made aware that there were 3 Jewish families here, and this was one.
Corwin
And-
and I Fred, the other one.
But what I was aware of was how it didn't matter and how wonderful this community, in a small community, you don't always know how people would respond. And my mother-in-law's friends, were not Jewish, they were just, she would see some of them and they would come and talk to her, and she was like a young girl again, it was the most wonderful thing. And to me, I know that the family didn't all remain, well, they may have, the main people, but there was intermarriage, and they're like Jimmy, we were talking last night. I just think that this is the most wonderful community. I had thought this was gonna be the final time we would come, and it would be like a closure for my husband. But now I feel I would love to come back. We're staying at the most wonderful place that is it's called bed and breakfast, but they don't do breakfast anymore, but it's, I've been at some of them, and this is just the most wonderful place, and I would love to come back. And I wish we still could have the connections with people here. That's the only thing that is
In my
going to be
town,
missed.
preacher, her name is Linda Cochran. I think her parents were original founders of Lebanon. I met her at a church near me. Her name is Linda Cochran. I don't know her mother, Lorraine. I don't know what the family's name is.
Okay.
Beatty Cochran, I think, was the original founders, I heard.
And then
E-D-E.
Okay.
we were with some family on the Hack side. I would say it is my father-in-law's brother's daughter, Danielle, who married, she had married
Same age. For him.
later in life, but she's very young, actually. You think she was like, but the point is that her husband had been married before, and she heard, "You're going to Lebanon?" Oh my God, she said. Her
His wife lives
present husband, her husband, only husband, his ex-wife lives in Lebanon, Ohio. And I don't know her, we don't know, I think she'd be married or something, so we wouldn't know. It was Sprechter was his last name, but, so I have no idea who she is or what, but, and then somebody else said something about it.
6
And
degrees
so
of separation.
Lebanon, all of a sudden, Lebanon has obviously blossomed as being a suburb of
I understand
Dayton and.
Right.
Les, I understand Pete Fred, who was
Cincinnati.
Corwin's oldest child. I was in the Coconut Grove Hotel with my parents. I'm 15, the 21 guys walking towards me. I know you from somewhere, so I'm your first cousin from Ohio. I'm in California.
Wow. Such a small world.
Yeah.
Okay.
6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
Right. Can I get a picture of that?
So
Yeah, sure.
I'm gonna go ahead and conclude the interview.
Okay, fine.
So, thank you so much for sharing your history with us.
Yeah,
We really appreciate you people,
thank you.
all of you.